Hi guys, it's Brittany. So today's gonna be incredible movie facts video, and today we're gonna know these interesting facts on The Mask. One, the one thing that attracted Jim Carrey to the project more than anything else was that Stanley Ipkiss, much like him, is a huge fan of cartoons. Now that is quite interesting to know because um, yeah. Yeah, I think when it comes to an actor doing a role but finding something in common with his or her character, I think in a way that's kind of like, oh yeah, I could definitely do that. Like since me and this character have this in common, or we kind of have certain things in common that the actor can relate to himself or herself, that I think is probably easier for them to do because of what they have in common with their character. So I think that wasn't really hard to do. So I think he was probably really happy about that. Two, the producers hated the Cuban Pete musical number and wanted it gone. They insisted that was too long, not funny, and dragged. But test audiences loved it so much that they kept it in. And I'm glad they did. Because if they did took out that Cuban Pete scene from The Mask, if they just took it out completely, then I don't know what else I probably could have put, after the park scene. I don't know what else they could have come up with, for his character to do. Like, oh yeah, well, the character of the mask, what else is he gonna do, besides uh to sing the song of QMP and dancing and having everyone else dancing? Like, okay, what else could he do? I don't know. But to be honest, I really like that scene, and it's just a good scene. Like, it's a really fun scene to watch because the mask isn't doing anything else but putting on a show for the police. He's dancing, he's singing, and yet he gets the whole police to sing and dance with him. And it's just really, to me, it is funny in a way, and it is fun to watch because that's like the only thing he does that isn't like too crazy. Because it's just funny how he gets the whole police to dance with him. Because as you can see, like it seems like they're doing like this dance routine, like choreography, and it's just really fun to watch. So I'm glad that the test audiences, that because they love that scene, that the producers just kept it in, and I'm glad they did. Three, this movie was based on a comic book which was very different from the typical superhero strips. The original comic book series was adult oriented and centered on the mask turning whoever wears it into a psychopath killer, known as Big Head, who slays his victims in gruesome fashion for fatal reasons. I think that's how you say it. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what that means. But uh now, when I read about this, I was in a way a bit surprised because I was like, whoa, wait a minute. So, this movie, which is funny and something that's, fun to watch, for adults and kids to watch, um, that wow, so this movie was based on a comic book, but the comic book series itself is not at all funny like the movie is. It's dark, it's gruesome and graphic. So when I read about this, I was like, what? Like, okay, am I reading right? Like, am I really seeing that? Like, I don't know. Sometimes you have to, I think in a way I was in disbelief because I'm like, whoa, what? But sometimes that happens. Sometimes, it's kind of like with Disney movies in a way. It's like for those Disney movies, like especially princess movies, it's like they were based on the princess story, but of course those stories are also dark and disturbing. But yet I think Disney was, I think, in a way inspired by those stories, but not to the way of how dark it is. But I think they decided to make it, you know, fun to watch, where, kids can watch it and where it's not as dark as the original story is. So sometimes that happens. So that's kind of like with The Mask here, except it's not a Disney princess movie. It's just from a really dark, disturbing comic book series, still based on this character, but yet they turned it around when it came to the movie. Yeah, that's just interesting, but yet, still disturbing because it's like, okay. And I never read the comic books myself. And I think even if I decide to read the comic books, I think I might feel probably shocked and disturbed myself um, from what I read. Then, yeah. Okay, and speaking of what's still on the comic books here, 4, based on the Dark Horse comic book series of the same name, which frequently compromise dark, very dark horror stories on the mask, would murder people with cartoon antics. Chuck Russell has said that the movie started off in that tone before being transformed as a vehicle for Jim Carrey's unique comedy. Now, this also surprised me that way before Jim Carrey was cast, as the mask, Stanley Ipkiss, for the movie, that way before he was involved in the movie, that the movie itself was gonna have this very dark tone, just like in the comic books. And with me, I'm like, whoa, what? Like, I don't know. Somehow, this is what I think. I think if Jim Carrey was never in the movie, and if he was never at all like involved, to play the character, and let's say they pick someone else to play the character, then yeah, I do think maybe the mask would have gone that way, where it's a very more dark tone and very gruesome, just like the comic books. But because I think with Jim Carrey being involved and being cast as for the main character, that it changed everything. That I think not only did it change from being having the mask from having this almost dark tone to the movie, but now it's gonna have this very comical mood, comical tone to it. So in a way, I'm glad that the movie never went that far, real dark and disturbing. Because then, I don't know, I think, I mean, it did, if it did went that way, then that means that the mask that we see now with Jim Carrey in it, we would probably never get that. And that means we would probably never would got to see like not just the Cuban Pete scene, but we would never get to see those other funny and unique scenes in the movie that we probably wouldn't see now if it did went that way. So I'm glad that they changed it. Like I think especially with Jim Carrey being cast in a movie and being involved with a movie and all of that, I'm just glad that they changed the tone from being almost being dark to now comical. So I'm glad they changed that because now we have this really funny movie where, I think especially with Jim Carrey being in it, that his success and his acting was going really well, especially during the 90s. That's where his career was taking off, and he was doing these other great movies as well, especially The Mask. So, yeah, I'm just glad that with Jim Carrey being in it, that it didn't went that far, because we wouldn't have the movie we have now. I'm glad. I'm glad we do, because of him being in it and because things did change in a way for the movie that we all love and we can just laugh at because of him. So I'm glad of that. Okay, 5. When Ipkiss puts the mask on in his apartment and becomes a whirlwind, lightning strikes in the background reveal a backlit image of his skeleton. The viewer the viewer will need to play the movie in slow motion as the scene is only 1/10 of a second long. Now that I'm not sure if I noticed in the movie or not. I mean, I don't know. I think I may have to play that part, but it said to play in slow motion, so I may have to like pause it and I may have to find that because I'm not sure if I really saw that in the movie before. No, no, I don't think so. 6. The nightclub Coco Bongo, where the mask goes in this movie, and the Majestic 2001 is also the name of Jim Carrey's nightclub in Cancun, Mexico. Um, that is interesting to know. I do remember watching the Majestic once, but that was years ago, and I can't be sure if I can remember that the nightclub, even in that movie, named Coco Bongo. I I don't know. It's been years. I can't remember. But yeah, I think. Oh man, not only can I not remember of that, which even though that is true, because that is a fact. Not only can I not remember that, but now I just can't remember what that movie was about. Great. I have to start catching up and start watching movies that I forgot. That I forgot were about. So that's interesting, though. 7. Chuck Russell revealed that a lot of money was saved on special effects after Jim Carrey was cast. Carrey's body movements were so flexible and cartoonish, they didn't need to enhance them digitally. Now, I do think there are, I do think, of course, that there are some parts, especially with the mask in certain scenes, where it's properly, um, where they had to enhance it, with CGI, to use special effects for certain scenes. But I think because, as it said, that Jim Carrey's body movements were so flexible and cartoonish that they didn't need to enhance them, um, to like enhance what he did, especially as the mask, digitally. So that is like quite surprising. Like, wow, he can pull it off. Like, he can really play a character and just be really good at what he does. 8. The Never Made sequel would have had Dorian returning to perpetrate new Finland. villainy and the mask being worn by a woman, as happened in the source comics. Okay, so of course, that really not so good sequel, Son of the Mask. Yeah, that when I watched it I thought, what? Like, okay, this isn't good. And I'm like, it probably would have been better if Jim Carrey was in it, and maybe, as it said, that um, the Never Made sequel, who knows, maybe that could have turned out good. So the Never Made sequel would have had, of course, as I said, Dorian returning, and he would become even more. I think he would become even more of a villain than the first. And I think this time, I think instead of Jim Carrey being the mask this time, that the mask would have been worn by a woman, and that she would be the one as the mask character. So yeah, I don't know. I think I would like to see that. I think I would like to see um like this main character, female character who sees the mask, she puts it on, because I'm curious to see what what would the mask could do if it was worn by a woman. Like, what would she look like? Like, of course her face will look green, but would she be bald as well, or would she have some sort of very stylish hair with a green face, and would she somehow wear these very unique um, dresses in a way? Like, I don't know. I have no idea. But that would have been quite interesting to see, because it even said that the mask was worn by a woman, as happened in the comics. So yeah, I think that would have been quite interesting to see. 9. Jim Carrey and Cameron Diaz did their own I'm sorry, in the Hey Bakuko, I'm sorry if I said that wrong, I'm sorry, scene, while Jim Carrey did his own singing, Diaz did not. Okay, so when she sang that song before they were dancing, that was someone else singing for her. But then when it came to the Cuban Pete song, that was actually Jim Carrey. Like, not just dancing in that scene, but he was also singing that song as well. So that was really him singing. So yeah, he did a good job, and they both did a good job when it came to that scene as well. In that club, like, they did a good job with the music, and when they were dancing to the music. Like, I just love that scene, I really do. And that scene is also fun to watch. 10. The oversized teeth on the masked character were originally to be used only during silent scenes. However, Jim Carrey learned to talk with them on to make his character that much more wacky. I love this fact, and the reason why is because Jim Carrey is really good at what he does, especially when it comes to being hilarious and knowing what to say, how to say it, and just knowing how to say something to make someone laugh, and knowing even to make certain face expressions that can still make people laugh. But I love this fact of the mask because it's true. In the mask, Jim Carrey had to wear oversized teeth for his character, but um, yeah, he was gonna originally wear them to be used in only during silent scenes, where his character doesn't talk. So I'm not sure how that would have been, because Jim Carrey did learn how to talk, by wearing the oversized teeth, which of course did make his character much more wacky. And just to see that, like, if you were to watch The Mask right now, or it's just, if you were to watch it and you see him as the mask with a wearing oversized teeth and he's talking, that's because he's really wearing those, fake oversized teeth, and he really learned how to talk with them on. And yes, that made his character really um wacky, of course. And but I think that's really good. I think that that's great because if it wasn't for that, then we probably wouldn't really hear the mask talking. So yeah, now that I would have to say is like my favorite fact because like when even right now when I think about those scenes where he's as the mask and he's talking with the oversized teeth, I'm like, okay, I don't know how he did it, but he was able to pull it off, not only to play the character as the mask, but he was able to wear the oversized teeth and learn how to talk with them on and in a movie, which I think it turned out really great. So, yeah, I love this movie, and that's all for the facts. Let me know which fact of the mask is your favorite. So far, I have to say the last one is my favorite because it just shows you how an actor that um, that an actor can pull anything off, especially if he or she knows, like, okay, like just because um it like even though if they know if they're being challenged, it's like yeah, somehow they're gonna do something just to make it maybe more interesting, or just so that way, I don't know how else to put it, but it just shows you how when someone is being challenged, whether if it's makeup being on or wearing fake teeth or something, that if they learn how to do that, whether to talk or something, it's just amazing. And I think that's amazing what he did, and I was able to talk as the mask with those on, so that's quite interesting. So oh gosh, this is a bit long. Okay, that's all for today, and I'll see you at the movies.